Dr. Heirin Song walked through the massive doors of the council chambers for what she hoped would be the last time. The chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from 300 different species. Some breathed oxygen like her. Others floated in specialized tanks. Some existed as pure energy fields contained in magnetic bottles. All of them were waiting for her. She was tired. So very tired. Admiral Min Jun Park stood beside her, his military uniform crisp, despite the long journey from Earth. His face showed the same exhaustion she felt. They had been doing this for too long. Humanity had been doing this for too long. Another emergency session, Min Jun muttered under his breath. What number is this? 847, Heirin replied. She had counted every single one. The council chamber erupted as they entered, not with applause or welcome, but with demands. The insectoid Thrikesh clicked their mandibles in rapid sequences that the translator rendered as urgent pleas. The Vexillian Empire's representative, Ambassador Zex Thor, raised all four of his arms in a gesture of supreme importance. The aquatic Delphinius splashed in their containment tanks, creating waves that splattered against the transparent aluminum. Order! The council speaker, a floating crystalline being called a harmonic, chimed. The sound was beautiful and commanding. We have summoned the human delegation to address multiple crises. Heirin took her seat. The human delegation area was small, pushed to the side. It had always been that way. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 312 years, but they never got a central seat. Never got a real vote on the important matters. They were there to serve. The Vexillian Empire and the Chromath Federation are preparing for war, the speaker announced. We need human mediators immediately. You have successfully negotiated peace 43 times before. You will do so again. 3,000 and right. Support in 69. Heirin noticed the phrasing. Not, we request, or, would you be willing? Just, you will. As if humanity had no choice. Additionally, a Thrikesh representative interrupted. Our infrastructure on 17 colony worlds is failing. We need human engineers to repair the systems. Our population will die without immediate intervention. Our song cores are degrading, a harmonic added. Only human musicians understand the frequencies needed to restore them. We require at least 2,000 human specialists. The Delphinian colony on Aqua Tertius is flooding, another voice called out. Human-designed pumps are malfunctioning. We need Captain J1 Kim and his rescue teams dispatched within the day. The demands continued. Every species had an emergency. Every species needed humanity to fix their problems. No one asked if humanity had problems of their own. No one ever asked. Admiral Park stood up suddenly. The chamber quieted. It was rare for the human military commander to speak in council sessions. Our frontier colonies are under attack, he said. His voice was steady but cold. Pirate raiders from the outer reaches have hit 3 human settlements in the past week. We have requested permission to redeploy our defense fleet to protect our own people. That request was denied. Ambassador Zexthor waved a dismissive arm. The defense of minor colonies cannot take precedence over galactic stability. Human ships are needed to patrol the buffer zones between the Empire and the Federation. Your fleet will remain at their stations. Our people are dying, Park said flatly. And billions will die if war breaks out, Zexthor countered. Humanity understands sacrifice. This is why you are valuable to the Council. Heirin felt something break inside her. It was a small thing, like a single support beam giving way in a massive structure. But she knew that once one beam broke, others would follow. What has the galaxy ever done for humanity? She asked quietly. The chamber fell silent. Every translator in the room rendered her words perfectly. Every species heard the question clearly. Then they laughed. It started with the Vexillians, their multi-tonal voices creating a sound like grinding metal. The Thrikesh joined with their clicking chirps. Even the harmonics produced a sound that resembled laughter. though it hurt human ears. Done for you? Zex Thor's laughter faded into something like pity. Dear Dr. Song, you are humanity. Helping is what you do. Fixing problems is your nature. You build, you repair, you heal, you mediate, you sacrifice. This is what you are for. The words hung in the air. What you are for. Not what you do or what you're good at. What you are for. Like a tool. Like a machine designed for a single purpose. Rin looked around the chamber. She saw species whose worlds humanity had saved from ecological collapse. Species whose populations humanity had rescued from genetic diseases. Species whose wars humanity had ended through tireless negotiation. Species whose infrastructure was built, maintained, and repaired by human hands. She saw the Delphinian representative, whose entire civilization would have drowned on their waterlogged homeworld if human engineers hadn't redesigned their cities. That representative was currently checking his datapad, bored with the conversation. She saw the Thrykesh delegation, whose genetic plague had been cured by human xenobiologists, working around the clock for 20 years. They were clicking irritably, impatient for the session to end so they could file their emergency repair requests. She saw the harmonic whose song core had been personally restored by her own sister, a human musician who had spent 5 years learning their tonal language. That harmonic was already transmitting messages to other species. Not even paying attention. 312 years. Humanity had given 312 years of service. They had lost 40,000 human lives. Protecting alien worlds. They had diverted 80% of their resources to galactic problems. They had delayed their own advancement, neglected their own colonies, sacrificed their own comfort and safety. And the galaxy thought this was what humans were for. Minjun touched her shoulder. He had seen the change in her expression. He knew what was coming. He had been waiting for this moment himself. Rin stood up slowly. She touched the communication device on her wrist, setting it to encrypted transmission back to Earth. The message would take hours to arrive, but she knew it would be received. She knew what would happen next. She looked directly at Ambassador Zex Thor and spoke 3 words into her communicator. Initiate Protocol Exodus. The chamber erupted in confusion. Species demanded to know what the words meant. The harmonics tried to access human communication channels and found them suddenly encrypted. The Vexillians demanded an explanation. Rin walked toward the exit. Minjun followed her. At the doorway, she turned back, one last time. You asked what humans are for, she said. We are for ourselves now. Find someone else to save you. The doors closed behind them. The council chamber dissolved into chaos. And somewhere far away, on Earth, Protocol Exodus began. Captain J1 Kim was in the middle of evacuating a Delphinian water world when the message arrived. His rescue team had been working for 6 days straight, pulling aquatic civilians from flooding sectors. The pumps were failing, just like they always did. Human-built pumps never failed. But the Delphinius had tried to make their own copies. They had failed to understand the self-repair mechanisms built into human engineering. The message was simple. Return home. Abandon operation. Effective immediately. J1 stared at the words on his screen. In his entire career, spanning 23 years, he had never abandoned a mission. Humans didn't leave people behind. It was their most sacred rule. Sir? His second officer, Lieutenant Sung Min Baek, looked at him with confusion. Are we really leaving? J1 looked out at the flooded city below. Thousands of Delphinius were still trapped. His team could save most of them. Maybe all of them, if they worked through the next week. The Delphinius were looking up at the human ships with hope. They had absolute faith that humanity would save them. Humans always saved them. Pack everything, J1 said. His voice felt hollow. We're going home. J1. The Delphinian officials contacted his ship within minutes. Their translator rendered their underwater speech into panicked human words. You cannot leave. Our people will die. Humans just did, J1 replied, and cut the communication. His ships rose from the water world, leaving behind half-completed evacuation equipment and emergency shelters. Below, thousands of Delphinius watched in disbelief as the human vessels jumped to faster than light speed and vanished. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated. Engineer Tae-young Choi stood in the reactor room of a 3-Kesh colony world. The fusion reactor that powered this city of 60 million was one he had built himself 15 years ago. It was elegant work, designed to run for centuries with minimal maintenance. The Thrikesh had begged for human help when their own power systems kept exploding. Now he was dismantling it. Please, click Speaker 7, the Thrikesh colony administrator begged through his translator. Without this reactor, our city will freeze. Our larvae cannot survive the cold. You built this. You cannot destroy it. I'm not destroying it, Tae-young said calmly. He removed another core component and packed it carefully into a shipping container. I'm taking it home. This is human technology. Human property. We're reclaiming what's ours. But we need it. Then you should have treated us like partners instead of servants, Tae-young replied. He had spent 15 years maintaining Thrikesh infrastructure. 15 years being called to fix problems at any hour. 15 years watching his own family grow up through video calls because he was too busy keeping alien cities running. Find another species to exploit. Find another species to exploit. Dr. Ji Woo Kang sat in her laboratory on the research station Harmony Point. Across from her sat Click Speaker 7's cousin, Click Speaker 4, her research partner of 20 years. Together, they had been working on a cure for the Thrikesh genetic plague. They were close, maybe months away from success. The plague had killed billions of Thrikesh over the past century. Ji-woo had dedicated her entire adult life to stopping it. She and Four had become genuine friends, as much as a human and an insectoid could be. You cannot leave, Four said. His mandibles clicked in patterns that didn't need translation. She recognized his distress. We are so close. My people need this cure. God. I know, Ji-woo said. Tears ran down her face. This was the hardest thing she had ever done. The research data will remain in the galaxy's databases. Other scientists can continue the work. No one else understands it like you do. No one else cares like you do. I care too much, Ji-woo said. That's the problem. I have given everything to this galaxy. My youth, my energy, my life. I have nothing left to give. I'm empty. She stood up and began packing her equipment. Four watched in silence. As she reached the door, he spoke one last time. I thought we were friends. Ji-woo stopped. She turned back, and her voice cracked. We were. We are. But friendship should go both ways. Your species votes in the council to keep humanity in servitude. Your government demands human help, but offers nothing in return. You personally are kind to me. But kindness from one person doesn't change a galaxy's exploitation. She left. Four remained in the laboratory, surrounded by 20 years of unfinished research. General Seo-yeon Lee watched the status displays in Earth's military command center. Every human ship, every human station, every human installation across the galaxy was blinking green as they reported in. The withdrawal was proceeding faster than anyone had expected. Humans were efficient. They had to be. The galaxy had worked them to the bone for 3 centuries. Status report, she ordered. 73% of human personnel have evacuated galactic space, an officer reported. All military vessels are returning to human-controlled territory. Civilian transports are following. We estimate complete withdrawal within 5 months. Any resistance? Multiple alien governments have filed protests. The Galactic Council is demanding an emergency session. Ambassador Zex Thor has sent 47 messages, demanding to speak with Earth's leadership. Ignore all of it, Seo-yeon said. Continue the withdrawal. The Council didn't understand. Even now, they thought this was a negotiation. They thought humanity was bluffing, trying to get better terms. They had sent offers of improved trade agreements, better voting representation, increased resource allocations. They still didn't realize that humans didn't want a better deal. Humans wanted out. Dr. He-Rin Song delivered humanity's final message to the Galactic Council 6 months after Protocol Exodus began. She stood in the council chamber one last time. The room was packed with representatives demanding explanations. "Where are your engineers?" the Thrikesh delegation demanded. "Our colonies are going dark." "Where are your mediators?" the Vexillians shouted. "The war has started. You were supposed to prevent this. Where are your doctors, your scientists, your builders?" A dozen voices cried at once. He-Rin waited for silence. When it finally came, she spoke clearly and calmly. "They are going home, all of them. Every human in galactic space is returning to human territory. We are closing our borders. We are severing diplomatic relations. We are done. Axa State. Axa State. You cannot do this," Ambassador Zexthor roared. "The galaxy needs humanity." "The galaxy had humanity," He-Rin replied. "For 312 years. You took us for granted. You treated us as tools. You worked us until we broke. And when we asked what you had ever done for us, you laughed. We can negotiate. Better terms? Better. No." The single word cut through the chamber like a blade. "We are not negotiating. We are leaving. This is not a discussion. This is goodbye. People will die without human help," a Delphinian cried. "Yes," He-Rin said. "They will. And that is tragic. But for 3 centuries, humans died protecting you. 40,000 human lives were lost, saving alien worlds. You never learned their names. You never honored their sacrifice. You never even said thank you." She walked to the exit. At the doorway, she delivered her final statement. "The galaxy can survive without humanity. You did it before we arrived. You'll figure it out again. Or you won't. Either way, it's no longer our problem. Find someone else to save you." The door closed. The council chamber erupted in chaos. And across the galaxy, the last human ships jumped to faster than light speed and headed home. 1 year after humanity closed its borders, the Delphinian colony that Captain J1 Kim had abandoned was completely flooded. 3 billion aquatic beings died, suffocating in water poisoned by failed filtration systems. The Delphinias had tried to repair the human-designed pumps. They couldn't. Human engineering wasn't just advanced, it was intuitive, built with layers of redundancy and self-healing systems that no other species understood. The Delphinia sent desperate messages to human space. They apologized. They begged. They offered everything they had. The human response was silence. The war between the Vexillian Empire and the Chromath Federation had escalated exactly as predicted. Without human mediators, 3 centuries of careful peace negotiations collapsed in weeks. Both sides had forgotten how to compromise. Humans had always done the compromising for them. Orbital bombardments destroyed industrial worlds. Billions died in the first month. Both species broadcast surrender terms that the other found insulting. There was no one to bridge the gap. No one to find the middle ground. The war continued. Ambassador Emeritus Jin A. Han sat in her apartment on Earth, watching the galactic news feeds. She had served as a human diplomat for 60 years before retiring. She had negotiated 17 major peace treaties. She had saved countless lives. Now she watched those same civilizations tear themselves apart. "They're calling it the human absence," her former colleague, Merchant Sung-Ho Yoon, said. He sat beside her, his own eyes fixed on the screens. Sung-Ho had traded with 300 different species during his career. He knew them all personally. "The galaxy is collapsing." The screens showed disaster after disaster. Thrikesh colony worlds had gone completely dark. Without power, their cities froze. The Thrikesh couldn't regulate their body temperature. Entire populations died in the cold. On the harmonic homeworlds, the song cores were shattering. These crystalline structures maintained the harmonic's collective consciousness. Without human musicians to maintain the precise frequencies, the cores were breaking down. Millions of harmonics were going insane, their minds fragmenting as their song cores failed. Space stations across the galaxy were experiencing catastrophic life support failures. These stations had been built by dozens of species working together, but the critical systems were all human-designed. The other species had assumed they could learn to maintain them. They were wrong. The Galactic Council is broadcasting an official apology, Sung-Ho said. A new feed appeared on the screen. The council chamber looked different now. Half the seats were empty. Some species had already gone extinct. Others had retreated to their home worlds, abandoning galactic civilization entirely. The remaining council members took turns apologizing to humanity. They admitted they had taken humans for granted. They confessed they had treated humanity as tools rather than equals. They begged for forgiveness. They pleaded for help. Jinae watched without expression. She had heard apologies before. Every species learned to apologize when they needed something from humanity. The words meant nothing. Are we really going to let them all die? Sung-Ho asked quietly. We're not letting them do anything, Jinae replied. They did this to themselves. For 3 centuries, we warned them. We asked for fair treatment. We requested equal representation. We begged them to maintain their own infrastructure, to learn to solve their own problems. They refused. They said helping was what we were for. Captain Min Seo-Bei stood on the bridge of her patrol ship at the human border. She was young, only 35, but she had been given one of the most important jobs in human space. She was a border guard. She turned away the refugees. Every day, ships appeared at the border. Alien vessels, most of them barely functional, limping toward human space on damaged engines. They came begging for help, for medicine, for food, for repairs, for salvation. Every day, Min Seo turned them away. Today's ship was Chromath, a transport vessel carrying refugees from the war. Through the view screen, Min Seo could see faces pressed against the windows. Children, if Chromath had such a concept, young ones at least, innocent beings who had nothing to do with the Council's decisions. Human vessel, please, the Chromath captain's voice came through the translator. We have injured aboard. Our life support is failing. We need medical assistance. We're begging you. Min Seo checked her orders. They were clear and absolute. No exceptions. Your request is denied, she said. Turn your vessel around and leave human space. We'll die. That's unfortunate. Human space is closed to all alien species. No exceptions. But humans always help. Min Seo felt something cold settle in her chest. She had heard this phrase in her training. They had prepared her for it. Humans always did help, she said. Past tense. You made your decision about our value. Now live with the consequences. She cut the communication and watched the Chromath ship turn away slowly, its engines sputtering. She didn't know if they made it to another system. She didn't let herself care. The next ship was Delphinian. The one after that was Thrikesh. Then came a harmonic vessel, its song distorted and painful to hear even through the ship's audio filters. All of them begged. All of them were turned away. Do you ever feel guilty? Her second officer asked during a quiet moment. Min Seo thought about the question carefully. I feel sad, she finally said, but not guilty. My grandmother worked on a Thrikesh colony world for 40 years. She maintained their power systems. She missed my mother's childhood, my mother's wedding, my birth. She died there, fixing a reactor during an emergency. The Thrikesh buried her in an unmarked grave and never told us where. They called Earth 3 days later, asking for a replacement engineer. Her second officer said nothing. So no. Mincio continued. I don't feel guilty. I feel sad that it came to this. But they had 3 centuries to change. They didn't. This is what they chose. Deep in human space, the government received thousands of delegation requests every day. Alien species wanted to negotiate. They offered incredible deals. Trade agreements that gave humans majority control. Technology transfers, though humans had always been more advanced. Some species offered to become human protectorates, surrendering their sovereignty completely. Every offer was rejected. The alien delegations didn't understand. They thought humans wanted power, or resources, or dominance. They kept offering more, giving up more, desperately trying to find the price that would bring humanity back. They never understood that humans didn't want anything from them. Humans wanted to be left alone. One delegation managed to reach Earth's orbital space before being turned away. They were Vexillians, the same species whose ambassador had laughed when Dr. Song asked what the galaxy had done for humanity. As their ship was escorted back to the border, their leader sent one final transmission. Will you really let us all die? Will you watch the entire galaxy burn? The response came from Earth's president, Hyun Woo Shin himself. His words were broadcast across all channels, sent to every alien vessel lingering at human borders. You taught us that the galaxy doesn't owe anyone salvation. You taught us that some species exist to serve, and others exist to be served. You taught us that asking for fair treatment was foolish. You taught us that sacrifice is not valued, only expected. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was cold. We learned every lesson you taught us. We learned them well. Now you're learning them too. Welcome to the lesson. Class is in session. The Vexillian ship jumped away, carrying that message back to what remained of the council. And at the borders of human space, Captain Min Seo-Bei prepared to turn away the next desperate ship, and the next, and the next. 5 years after humanity closed its borders, Dr. Yoonji Lim stood in her research laboratory on Europa Station and made a breakthrough that would have been impossible before the withdrawal. She had just solved the quantum entanglement problem that had frustrated human physicists for 2 centuries. It works, she whispered, staring at her data. It actually works. Before the withdrawal, she would have been interrupted by now. An emergency call from the council. A 3-Kesh plague outbreak. A Delphinian colony crisis. A harmonic song core failure. Her research would have been postponed, again, like it had been postponed hundreds of times before. But now, there were no interruptions. No alien emergencies. No desperate calls for help. She could actually focus on her work. Humanity could advance again. The past 5 years had been remarkable for human civilization. Without spending 80% of their resources solving everyone else's problems, humanity had entered a golden age. New technologies emerged monthly. Art and culture flourished. Human colonies expanded into previously unexplored systems within their own territory. Artist Joon-gi Park had captured this renaissance in a series of installations that were displayed across human space. His most famous piece was called Unshackled. It showed a human figure breaking free from chains made of light, each chain labeled with a different alien species name. Some people found it too harsh. Most found it perfect. President Hyun Woo Shin walked through the new cultural center on Earth, looking at Joon-gi's work. Beside him walked former Admiral Min Jun Park, now retired and working on his memoirs. Do you think we did the right thing? Shin asked quietly. Min Jun stopped in front of a painting showing human rescue workers abandoning an alien city. The painting was titled, The Last Time. I commanded the defense fleet for 30 years, Min Jun said. I fought 156 battles protecting alien worlds. 40,000 humans died under my command, not defending Earth, but defending species who never learned their names. I wrote letters to their families explaining that their sons and daughters died heroes, protecting civilization. But those families didn't see the council meetings. They didn't hear the Vexillians laugh when we asked for respect. They didn't watch as alien governments demanded more sacrifice while offering nothing. He turned to face the president. So, yes. We did the right thing. We finally chose ourselves. Meanwhile, the galaxy was dying. The Vexillian Empire was a third of its former size. The war with Chromath had devastated both species. Without human mediators, to find compromise, the war had become total. Both sides had forgotten that wars could end in anything except complete destruction. The Chromath homeworld was now uninhabitable, its atmosphere poisoned by weapons they had barely understood. The surviving Chromath lived on scattered colony worlds, slowly dying as their infrastructure failed without human maintenance. The Thrykesh genetic plague had killed 60% of their population. Dr. Ji Wu Kang's research had been so close to finding a cure. Other scientists had tried to complete her work, but without her to guide them, the incomplete data was useless. The plague continued spreading. The harmonics had suffered perhaps the worst fate. 70% of their song cores had shattered. Millions of harmonics had gone insane, their consciousness fragmenting. The survivors lived in small, isolated communities, afraid to build new song cores without human musicians to maintain them. The Delphinius had lost nearly half their colony worlds to flooding. Their remaining populations clung to their home world and a few successful colonies. They had finally learned to maintain human-designed pumps, but the knowledge had come too late for billions. What remained of the Galactic Council, assembled in a makeshift chamber on a neutral station? Only 5 species were represented. The rest were extinct, isolated, or too damaged to participate in galactic affairs. They had come to make one final offer to humanity. The delegation arrived at the human border in a ship that was falling apart. It was human-built, from before the withdrawal, and without human maintenance, it was barely functional. Captain Minseo Bay watched it limp into sensor range. "They're requesting permission to enter human space," her officer reported. "They say they represent the Galactic Council." "What's left of it?" Minseo muttered. "Grant them passage to Earth. Let the president deal with them." The council delegation stood before President Shin in a diplomatic chamber designed for such meetings. The 5 representatives looked diminished. The Vexillian ambassador was not Zex Thor, who had died in the war. This was a younger diplomat who had never known the galaxy before humanity left. They presented their offer: complete council leadership for humanity, unlimited access to all galactic resources, total autonomy in all decisions, control over all shared infrastructure. The right to rebuild civilization, however, humans saw fit. It was everything humans might have wanted 3 centuries ago. Now it meant nothing. President Shin listened to the 6-hour presentation in silence. When it ended, he stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth gleamed in its orbital embrace. Magnificent stations, built by humans for humans, orbited the planet. The view showed a civilization that was confident, self-sufficient, and thriving. "You still don't understand," Shin said quietly. "You're not offering us anything we want. We're offering you everything." The Vexillian delegate protested. "Control of the galaxy, resources beyond measure, the power to shape civilization. We don't want to rule you," Shin said. He turned to face them. "We don't want your resources. We don't want power over you. We don't want anything from you at all. We want you to leave us alone." The delegates looked at each other in confusion. Even now, even after 5 years, they didn't understand. "But if you don't help us, we'll die," the Thrykesh delegate said. "Our species is ending." "That's unfortunate," Shin replied. His voice was not cruel, but it was not sympathetic either. It was simply neutral. "But it's not our problem. You could save us. You have the knowledge, the resources, the technology." "Yes, we do. And we're using those things for ourselves now. But that's not who humans are," the Delphinian delegate burst out. "Humans help. Humans save people. It's your nature." Shin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're right. It is our nature. And you exploited that nature for 300 years. You took our help and gave nothing back. You took our sacrifice and called it expected. You took our compassion and called it weakness. He walked back to his desk and sat down. We're still the same humans. We still help people. We still save those who need saving. But now, we're helping ourselves. We're saving our own people. We're building our own civilization. The galaxy taught us that charity begins at home. We learned that lesson well. We learned that lesson. We learned that lesson. We learned that lesson well. We learned that lesson. The harmonic delegate produced a sound that the translator struggled to render. It was something between a plea and a scream. Will you let us all die? Will you watch as everything falls apart? Shin looked at each delegate in turn. You taught us that the galaxy doesn't owe anyone salvation. You taught us that actions have consequences. You taught us that some species are meant to serve themselves, not others. He stood, indicating the meeting was over. You can survive without us. You did it before we joined the galaxy. Maybe you'll figure it out again. Maybe you won't. Either way, it's no longer our responsibility. As security escorted the delegates out, the Vexillian turned back one last time. Is there nothing we can offer? They said butter. Lugar. Nothing that would bring humanity back? Shin thought about that question seriously. He thought about the 40,000 humans who had died protecting alien worlds. He thought about the generations of human children who grew up without parents because those parents were off fixing alien problems. He thought about the human colonies that had been left defenseless because the Council demanded human fleets protect alien space instead. You could have offered us respect, he finally said. You could have offered us equality. You could have offered us gratitude. But those things can't be bought. They have to be given freely, and you never gave them. It's too late now. The delegates were escorted back to their dying ship. As they left human space, one of them sent a final message. We're sorry. The response from Earth was brief. So are we. But sorry doesn't change anything. The ship jumped away, returning to a galaxy that was learning, too late, what it had lost. 10 years after humanity walked away from the galaxy, Officer Seung Hyun-oh stood at his border post and watched another refugee ship approach. He was 26 years old. He had been 16 when Protocol Exodus began. He had never lived under the Galactic Council's rule. The exploitation of humanity was just history to him, something he learned about in school. But he saw the consequences every day. The galaxy was a graveyard now. 70% of the Council species were extinct or reduced to primitive populations on their home worlds. The rest survived in scattered pockets, scavenging the ruins of a civilization that humanity had built and maintained. Another one, his fellow officer said. Delphinian. By the signatures. Life support is failing. Same as always, Seung Hyun replied. He opened the communication channel. Attention alien vessel. You are approaching human space. Turn back. Immediately. Please, the voice came through the translator. We're dying. We just need repairs. Human space is closed. No exceptions. But our children. Seung Hyun cut the channel. He had heard every plea, every desperate appeal. He had learned to shut them out. It was his job. But sometimes, late at night, he wondered if his generation was doing the right thing. They hadn't experienced the exploitation. They only saw the suffering. Was it right to punish these refugees for what their governments had done decades ago? The question that had been simmering in human society for years finally erupted when Mi-sun Kwon arrived at the border. Mi-sun was human. She had stayed behind 10 years ago when everyone else left. She had believed the galaxy could change, could learn. She had been wrong. Now she was returning, but she wasn't alone. Her convoy consisted of 50 ships. Most were alien vessels, barely functional. They carried the last few thousand inhabitants of an entire sector species that had treated humans with genuine respect, individuals who had been true friends, aliens who had protested the Council's treatment of humanity. Governor Da-un Choi, of the frontier colony New Seoul, received the convoy's request for asylum. She was a hardliner, part of the generation that had experienced the exploitation firsthand. Her initial response was automatic refusal, but then she read the full petition. Mi-sun had documented every individual in the convoy. She had proof of their actions during humanity's time in the Council. These weren't the politicians who had laughed at Dr. Song. These weren't the administrators who had demanded endless sacrifice. These were ordinary people who had stood up for humanity and been punished for it. The debate that followed split human civilization in half. We owe them nothing, Da-un argued in the council chamber. Individuals might have been kind, but their governments, their species, their civilization exploited us. We set a boundary. We said no. If we let some through, where do we stop? At basic morality, countered Representative Young Soo-han, who represented the younger generation. These specific individuals helped us. Some of them hid human refugees during the withdrawal. Some of them protested their own governments. They suffered for supporting us. Do we really abandon people who stood by us? The argument raged for weeks. News feeds were filled with debates. The older generation, who remembered the exploitation, wanted the borders to stay closed. The younger generation, who had grown up in prosperity, felt that humanity was becoming as callous as the species that had exploited them. Dr. Hae-rin Song, now elderly and retired, watched the debates from her home on Earth. She was the one who had initiated Protocol Exodus. She was the one who had said, "Find someone else to save you." Her opinion carried weight. A journalist came to interview her. "Do you regret closing the borders?" they asked. Hae-rin looked out at the rebuilt Earth, at the thriving human civilization that had emerged from the ashes of exploitation. "No," she said. "We had to walk away. We had to teach the galaxy that actions have consequences. We had to save ourselves. But what about now? What about Mi-sun's convoy?" Hae-rin was quiet for a long moment. "When we walked away, we taught the galaxy that you cannot take people for granted. That was a lesson they needed to learn. But if we become as callous as they were, if we lose our humanity in our justified anger, then they destroyed us after all, just in a different way." She agreed to give one speech. One final address to humanity. She stood before the council and spoke to a civilization that hung on her every word. 10 years ago, I said 3 words that changed everything. Initiate Protocol Exodus. I don't regret those words. We had to leave. We were being exploited, taken for granted, worked to death. We had to save ourselves. She paused and looked at the faces watching her, young and old. Those who remembered the exploitation and those who had only known prosperity. But I never wanted us to become them. I never wanted us to become a species that hears, "Please help. We're dying," and responds with cold indifference. That's why we left. So what do? Someone called out. We set a new boundary. Hae-rin said. We don't return to the galaxy. We don't rebuild their civilization. We don't become their servants again. But we open a path. A hard path. Aliens who want our help must come to us. They must live in our space, under our laws. As equals. Not as victims to be saved. Not as refugees to be pitied. As immigrants who contribute to our society. But it means they give up their old ways. It means they accept human leadership. It means they work and build and contribute. It means they become part of our civilization, instead of us becoming part of theirs. It's not a rescue. It's an immigration policy. The debate continued for months, but Hae-rin's speech had shifted the conversation. Eventually, humanity made its decision. Mi-sun's convoy was allowed to enter human space. But the conditions were strict. All aliens would settle in human-controlled space. They would live under human laws. They would contribute to human society. They would learn human languages. They would accept that humanity was now the dominant civilization. Most importantly, they would be granted no special treatment. If they couldn't adapt, they would fail. Humanity would not bend itself to accommodate them. Not anymore. Mi-sun wept with relief when she heard the decision. Many in her convoy accepted gratefully. Some refused. Pride was universal. And accepting human dominance was too much for them. Those who refused were given supplies and directions to other systems. No one knew if they survived. The ones who accepted began the hard process of integration. Some succeeded, some failed. Humanity watched with neutral eyes, offering opportunity, but no special help. News of the decision spread through what remained of the galaxy. Some species began making plans to approach human space. Most didn't. Accepting human superiority was too bitter a pill. Those species continued their decline. Admiral Min-jun Park, now in his final days, received a visit from Officer Sung-hyun. Oh. The young man had requested the meeting, wanting to speak with the man who had stood beside Dr. Song when protocol exodus began. Did we do the right thing? Sung-hyun asked. Walking away? Min-jun looked at the young officer with tired eyes. He was dying, and he knew it. Soon he would join the 40,000 humans who had given their lives for alien species. But those humans had died as servants. Min-jun would die as a free man. We did the only thing we could do, he said. We chose ourselves. The galaxy had every opportunity to choose us too. They chose wrong. That's not our failure. That's theirs. But so many died. So many humans died serving them. Min-jun countered. For 3 centuries. Did the galaxy weep for us? Did they change their ways to save human lives? No. They laughed when we asked for basic respect. They called us tools. He coughed, and Sung-hyun offered water. You're young. You didn't experience it. I don't blame you for questioning. But understand this. Mercy is a gift. It must be given freely. It cannot be demanded or expected. The galaxy demanded our mercy for 3 centuries and gave nothing back. We had to teach them that mercy has limits. And now, we give mercy on our terms. To those who deserve it. To those who respect us. That's not cruelty. That's self-respect. Sung-hyun left with much to think about. He returned to his border post, where he would continue turning away desperate ships. But now, he also processed the occasional immigrant convoy, checking their credentials, ensuring they understood the terms. The galaxy would never return to what it was. Most of the council species were gone or dying. The ones that survived did so in humanity's shadow, living by humanity's rules, in humanity's space, and humanity thrived. The final scene played out on Earth, where a new memorial was dedicated. It honored the 40,000 humans who had died serving the galaxy. Their names were carved in stone, finally remembered, finally honored. At the dedication, President Shin gave a brief speech. These people gave everything for a galaxy that took them for granted. We honor their sacrifice by never forgetting it, and by never repeating it. We are humanity. We help, we build, we save. But we do it on our terms now. We do it for ourselves first. And we do it only for those who earn it. Above Earth, the orbital stations gleamed in the sunlight. In the distance, a small alien vessel requested permission to approach. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as petitioners, hoping to earn a place among the species the galaxy had once taken for granted. The message was clear. Humanity didn't ruin the galaxy by walking away. The galaxy ruined itself by never valuing humanity until it was too late. And in the end, humanity was finally, truly free.